When Dr. Shaw finished suturing the puppy and then idly leaned down to whisper to the little girl with the tattered doll and the sad eyes, I could have killed him. It was a Saturday. We were running late again, and to work late on a full moon Saturday when one is young and impetuous is very nearly a sin. Here he was wasting time, I thought, when jammed into the waiting room was a veritable barnyard full of problems still clamoring to be seen. Rabies and distemper vaccinations to be given, abscesses to be drained, x-rays to be developed, stools to be checked, ear mites to be cared for, surgeries to be scheduled. And yet I should have known better. I should have known by then that George Shaw was no ordinary man. In the most unlikely places, we meet the most remarkable people, it is said. And many years ago, I was in just such a place. Tujunga, California, a cozy little community nestled high up in the northeast corner of Los Angeles. It's a southern Paiute word, Tujunga is, usually translated as mountain range. But I didn't know that then. I had only left Florida a few days before. My Army days were over, and I was not adjusting well to 9-to-5 jobs. So I stuffed my duffel bag into my little orange VW and grabbed the $200 or $300, which was all the money I had in the world, and with no destination in mind, driving aimlessly by day and sleeping in my car at night, suddenly here I was in Tujunga, on Foothill Boulevard, staring at a sign which read, George B. Shaw, DVM, Veterinary Hospital. I looked at that sign twice, 3 times. It hung nonchalantly on a post in front of a 3-story house that clung to the side of a hill, and which had been rather clumsily converted into a makeshift clinic. Finally, my curiosity got the better of me, and I went inside and asked the obvious. It was the middle initial that intrigued me, the B. It just didn't seem possible, not in this tiny little alcove, high up above the city of angels. Sure enough, however, B was for Bernard, and George Bernard Shaw, DVM, was indeed distantly related to his namesake, the famous English playwright. At first, Dr. Shaw thought I was applying for a job. Along with the assistant's position at $3 an hour, he said, he would toss in the rear apartment rent-free if I was interested. In the confusion, I unloaded my car and ended up staying 18 months. 18 months, the significance of which I was only later able to appreciate. For in my case, it was true, as Kierkegaard suggested, that life is lived forwards, but understood backwards. And the life I plunged head first into left little time for reflection. Most days the clinic was a madhouse. Dr. Shaw didn't bother with appointments, for one thing, which means, naturally, that everyone would show up at the same time. On such occasions, in a last-ditch effort to speed things up, it was not unusual for George, in his wrinkled white lab coat, to stride out into the waiting room and treat pets as they sat in the laps of their owners. "Tetracycline for this one," he would call out to me. "Puppy shots over there." And if he could save a client some money, he would. Instead of pawning off expensively packaged remedies with fancy-sounding names, Dr. Shaw would gladly suggest whatever household item might do the trick just as effectively. Tylenol, perhaps, or regular old vitamin C. Nor was any animal ever refused treatment, not even the hit-and-run victims found on the side of the road and brought in by a good Samaritan. Such charity cases would be patched up and nursed back to health and then boarded at George's expense for whatever length of time it took for a new owner to be found. Then, too, some of Dr. Shaw's immense popularity was due to the fact that, in Tahunga, his was the only clinic open on Saturdays. On the 6th day, screaming bunches of the sick and the wounded would descend on us like the plague, which tended to play havoc with my weekend. Back then, work was only a paycheck, and a paycheck was my ticket to LA, to Long Beach, to Hollywood, to a life of play and self-indulgence. Thus, I was chafing at the bit late that Saturday afternoon when Dr. Shaw kindly leaned down to whisper to the little girl with the tattered doll and the sad eyes. "Hey," Dr. Shaw said, after finishing with the puppy her mother had brought in for a lick sore on his foreleg. "I think we're going to have to fix your other little friend up too. Looks like she scraped her knee." I watched in silence as Dr. Shaw gently placed the little girl's Barbie doll on the stainless steel table. Part of the stuffing was spilling out of a hole in one of the doll's legs. Without a second thought, and as rushed and pressed for time as he was, George calmly threaded a needle and proceeded to suture that doll back together again. Neither the little girl nor her mother said a word. The three of us just stood and stared at George's fingers as he worked on that doll. Fingers that were rough-looking, that bore the characteristic nicks and calluses of a man who all day works with chemicals and syringes, with cats that scratch and dogs that bite. Fingers that 1 minute are examining ringworm or mange or gangrene, and the next minute are shoulder-deep in a mare's womb, tenderly probing for an unborn foal. It was the look on that little girl's face when Dr. Shaw handed back her patched-up doll that I remember most from my 18 months in California. That shining face, those bright eyes, and a gratuitous act of kindness on a busy Saturday afternoon.